Episode
Loaded
9
Sport.
of...
Does it sit second, man?
No, I don't think he does. I think Kevin Keegan probably sits second.
Oh my God, what a scandal.
Austin Eckler versus the Cards. Go and fuck the lot of you.
God, Eckler.
He's making me like I'm some sort of cameo, like I've come in and go, hand out the bag, England to win.
Hello and welcome to episode 19 of Loaded Sport, where today we are going to be previewing the final week of the NFL season. Week 18 is finally upon us. We'll also be reviewing the darts that has just finished, the World Championships of Darts that's finished at the Alexandra Palace, and looking towards FA Cup weekend. The third round of the FA Cup is with us as well. Included in that, we'll also have the listener lock-in. We'll be welcoming in our first guest. So we'll be looking forward to that a little bit later on. There we go. Excitement straight away. So joining me to go through all of that, I'll start by introducing Sam. Sam, you ready? Are you excited for this weekend?
I'm pumped, mate. I'm more pumped to speak to our boy Keroin. He's been our number one fan since day dot, bless him. So yeah, I'm chuffed to get him on. Not actually never spoken to him before, so it's gonna be a pleasant surprise, I think.
Absolutely. And Skin, I know you're probably a little bit anxious as you've been putting a lot on our Loaded Sport chat about people stealing your locks. A chance that Keroin could do that?
Potentially, mate, but he'll feel the wrath later if he does. So I'll save the energy for if that time comes.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it, mate.
100%. And last but by no means least, welcoming Kemp. Kemp, you all right?
Mr. Dawson, Mr. White, man with the mic. How are we all doing this evening?
Oh, I thought just for a second, was he going to do it?
Thought it would come in. It would come in.
Well.
I thought the return was upon us, but no. The excitement's been not to last. Kemp, I'm going to start with you by talking about what's been going off this last week in the world of football. We'll start by talking about the inconsistencies of interviews from one Antonio Conte.
Well,
Actually, stop. I've just remembered something.
Holy shit.
I've just
Holy
remembered
shit.
something. That boy, Mr. Kemp, he owes us a list from last week. And I've just remembered. So,
Oh, he
Mr.
does. Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Kemp.
What
He,
do I
he
owe
tried,
you a list of?
he tried to throw it off, didn't he? I'll get it ready for next time. Yeah, Kev,
That's it.
you owe us
Dusting under the carpet, went. You're always a list, mate, of
Club of the Year,
yeah.
most improved,
You
one to
shitbag.
watch, young player.
Right,
Come on,
okay.
run through
Great
it.
stuff. Great
Run
stuff.
through it like
right,
I run
okay,
through
so...
you.
Oh,
ambushed
baby,
him.
that's not
Ambushed
possible.
him here.
Love
That's
that,
not
love that.
possible. Right, okay, so what's first? Best team?
Yeah,
You
if
tell
you
us, mate.
Best
If-
team.
Best team of 2022.
You've got it written down.
Best team of 2022, Real Madrid. Champions League winners, won their domestic league as well. Looked pretty much. They didn't look amazing in Champions League, to be fair, but they managed to just grind out results, and they've got some fantastic players along with a Ballon d'Or winning Karim Benzema. So best team, Real Madrid. I think it's improved team next. Is that right? And I'm going to say
player of
Manchester
the year.
United.
we can
Player
go
of
with
the
that, Phil.
year.
If you want.
Player of the year. Okay, so I'm going to say player of the year. I am going to say it has to be for me, probably Kylian Mbappe. I think there was a lot of talk after the Euros about, is he just all hype? You know, is he all mouth, no trousers, as it were? But I think his quality is really shown. It's difficult when you play for PSG because it's not a really high level of opposition. But when he played against France, you know, even though they didn't win the World Cup, you always feared Mbappe, and he always looked like a bit of a difference maker, in my opinion. So I'm going to say Kylian Mbappe. So improved team next, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Manchester United. I know a lot of people will say Arsenal or Newcastle, and I completely agree with those two, and I can't say that they're wrong. Wanted to sort of attack it a little bit differently, though, and just talk about it as a club rather than just first team.
That's
and
fair.
yeah, the difference in the last 12 months, or from the start of 2022 to the end, has been significant, in my opinion. You look at where they were, and they were an absolute mess, making errors all over the place in terms of the transfer market, tactics, managers, everything. Whereas now they had a rocky start to the season, but Ten Hag looks like he's really got a brand of football back in Manchester, which is the first time for a long time they've had a recognised pattern of play, in my opinion. And I think they've been really smart in the transfer market as well. Casemiro's an unbelievable signing, which is really, coming up trumps for him now. So in my opinion, Manchester United are the most improved team. Team to watch in 2023, I think, are going to be Chelsea. I think Graham Potter's had a rough start, but I think Todd Bowley and now Graham Potter, now he's got his feet under the table. I think they're going to have a good couple of windows. They've already started by signing a couple of, on paper, decent players. And I think they'll go from strength to strength because I do believe that Graham Potter is a top-class manager. So I think he will turn it around. So that's sort of a team to watch and a bold prediction for me. And a player to watch is Bayern Munich's Jamal Musiala, who played for Germany in the World Cup. And I thought he was pretty much their only shining light. I've kept my eye and I had my eye on Musiala for a couple of years now, and he looks like a really, really decent prospect. So any Premier League teams that are looking for a young, bright forward who's got a lot of potential and they're willing to stump up the money, I think Musiala is the way to go. So, yeah, thank you for that, boys. Thank you for allowing me to come back on that one.
Not a problem. Thank you very much for sharing.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Nah.
Is that a can?
I'll not fucking bother then.
got your Tommy Hands gaffer.
You're on bench.
Right, let's move on to talking about the more recent news, or the more recent interview, should I say, with Antonio Conte, the inconsistencies that he's been delivering in the press. Kemp, this is something that you've picked up on quite a bit, isn't it?
He's got a rat being his bonnet about it, hasn't he? Let's see what he's got to say.
I just think it's worth. I've got a bee in my bonnet. I just think it's worth talking about, and I think it's just the question, I suppose, from my perspective, to ask to you boys, and I suppose a question that I've sort of been asking myself, and maybe a lot of Spurs fans have had to answer, is is his constant flip flopping between I don't know if I can be bothered with a rebuild. And then 2 minutes later, or one game later, and they win a game, and it's it's all sunshine and roses, and Harry Kane's the best thing since sliced bread. So that up and down nature of 1 minute it's all doom, next doom and gloom, next minute it's all bright roses and fairies. I think it works in some respects because he did it. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if it was earlier in the season or last season, but Spurs were on a really bad run. I think they'd had a really bad result, and he came out in the post-match interview and slated pretty much everything. The club, the players said they weren't good enough, said they needed to overhaul the squad. And then I think they went on a pretty decent run. So is he doing it to give his players a kick up the arse? Or is he doing it because, I don't know, he's holding the club to ransom and wanting them to give him a huge contract, which ends at the end of the season? So I don't know, but I think it's really fascinating that Antonio Conte can go from one extreme to the other as quickly as he can. If you look at after the Villa game, he was literally talking about, this team's not good enough. We're not going to win titles. We're not even maybe going to get top four if we don't invest, if we don't buy new players, if we don't have basically a bit of a rebuild. And then they won yesterday was it 4-0 or 4-1 in the end? But they won convincingly. 4-0. And then again, he comes out and no mention of any rebuild, no mention of anything. And I understand it's a different result, but surely flip-flopping that bad from one extreme to the other, what sort of effect, I suppose, Dawson, I'll come to you first on this one. What sort of effect does that have on the Tottenham players and, more importantly, the Tottenham fans?
I think it has more of an impact on the fans as opposed to the players, purely because we're only seeing that 2-3 minute interview, aren't we? We're not seeing conversations in the dressing room, on the training field, all the other stuff we're seeing. It's like a heavily edited TV program, isn't it? What you see an hour of. We were big fans of Traitors. It's just been on BBC. We're seeing an hour of a 24-hour day. So it's hard to get the full context. We can only go and we can only have an opinion off of what we see, but they're obviously having other conversations away from that. So how he's approached it and how he's presented that, I do find very strange, but it would be hard for me to comment on what impact that's having on the players because we don't know what he said to the players directly 5 minutes before that, 5 minutes after that, this morning in training and that kind of stuff, if it makes sense. So if he's being as inconsistent in the message he's given to them as he is what he's given to the media, then I very much would expect them to be confused, not know where they stand. But he gave a bit of a scathing interview the other day, as you mentioned there, and they've come back and they've won 4-0, kept their first clean sheet for quite a few games. They were on a run of conceding 2 goals a game. So whatever we think of it, it's clearly had some kind of positive effect because ultimately all that matters is the result on the pitch. And they've just come off the back of a 4-0 away win. So it can't be too bad.
So in that respect, and you're absolutely right, and I completely agree with you on as it happens, in that Spurs' biggest complaint is that they've not won a trophy since 2008, the League Cup. So that's their, they've brought Conte in to win trophies. That's why they've brought him in, and that's why they've been quite open with the fact that that's why they've brought him in, and that's what the Spurs fans want him to do. But I have heard Spurs fans, on social media or even on like the radio and stuff like that, where come out and say, it's not good for the team, it's not good for morale, it's not good for this. We need, Pochettino back and whatever else. And I'm, to quote Charlie Nicholas, sitting there thinking, this is what you wanted. You wanted a winner, and if this is what it takes to win, then take the rough with the smooth. It's not
and
always
again, they've just won 4-0.
Sunshine and rainbows, exactly. But again, it's it's. Do the Spurs fans, are they going to flip flop on their opinion of Conte as much as he's going to flip flop on his opinion of the team's performance? So yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation and one that we'll definitely need to keep an eye on as we come towards the end of the season, because I know a lot of people, including myself, at the start of the season had Tottenham Hotspur finishing top 4. So we shall see, Adam.
Yeah, 100%. Completely agree with the points you've made. I think for Tottenham, it's just a case of trying to, like what you said with Conte and his interviews. I think it's a very dangerous game to be playing with your contract run out at the end of the season, because, like you pointed out, it could lead to you getting that extra contract, but it could also lead to your dismissal, the end, that kind of thing, and Tottenham moving on to yet another manager. But they need a bit more consistency, and I think they need a much stronger squad than what they've got at the moment. At the moment, it's just Harry Kane or nothing, in my opinion, for Tottenham. But we will move on to the next talking point, which we have. And Sam, I'm going to come across to you for this one. There have been plenty of rumours lately regarding Frank Lampard and Everton's recent form, one of which includes the Football Insider reporting that he will be sacked before the next Premier League game, so after the game against Manchester United on Friday. Now, you're a Derby County fan. You've had Frank Lampard at the helm before. What's your opinion and thoughts?
I think he's a good manager. I think he did really well with Derby. Granted, it was part of the Derby team at the time where Mel Morris was just plucking money out his arse, and obviously that's what we further down the line we paid dearly for it. So he did have some back in there. 36 points in 36 games, I think it is, something like that, as Everton boss, which is just clearly not good enough. However, I do think that if you look at that Everton squad, it's just an absolute Frankenstein team. It's just a bastardized team that's been chucked together. There's about 14 different players from 14 different managers in that team. He's not had a full squad that is brought in under his own power. So there's always that to it. Obviously, they've struggled over the last probably season or so with it all looked quite promising with the big takeover, which hasn't quite materialised. So yeah, I think they should stick with him personally. Whether or not that happens, as you say, it's sounding like they are. It probably will be going by the time they play another Premier League game. But I personally think they should stick with him. I think they just seem to be firing managers left, right, and centre at Everton, and they've just got to give somebody the time and backing just to get their team in. And even if it is just a matter of just trying the best to avoid relegation this season, do a Newcastle what they did last year. Just concentrate on making sure you survive that relegation, so you've got the fresh season ahead of you, just to clean slate and go again. But yeah, for me, I'd keep him. As I say, I quite liked him at Derby. I think he left Derby far too early in his career, I must admit. Obviously, Chelsea come knocking, and to an extent, can't blame him. It's his club at the end of the day, but I just think he probably should have had a bit more of a self-discipline there and said, you know what, I don't think I'm ready for that bigger job. And I think it's probably set him back slightly in his managerial development. I think if it had been at Derby now, I think we'd have, it's like impossible to say, I guess, with that, how we nearly went under. So whether or not he'd have been a part of that, I don't know. But yeah, for me, stick with him, but it wouldn't surprise me if he's gone in the next week or so.
Yeah, okay. And Skin, moving on to a talking point.
Can I just add something really quickly to that Lampard conversation? Sorry. I don't know. Sorry. I don't know if maybe I disagree slightly, Sam. I don't know if you're looking at it from a rose-tinted Derby spectacles, perhaps, maybe. I don't know. But Everton was 16th when Lampard took over, if I'm not wrong. They're now 18th. The football's pretty poor. The signings have been bad, and that's not all Lampard, because the signings have been bad for a long, long time. But Onana hasn't worked. Dwight McNeil always a bit of an odd signing. Don't know why they brought that one in. James Garner from United, I think he's on loan, didn't work. Then he got injured. Maupay from Brighton hasn't worked. And I think Everton aren't just suffering from poor management from Lampard's perspective, because I don't think he's a great manager in all honesty. But I think they're suffering from obviously the poor running of the club as well. And the problem is that when you've got both of those things working in tandem, it's very, very difficult to see a way out of this for Everton. The ownership aren't going to bugger off, and they're not going to restructure the running of the club and the ownership model partway through the season. But one thing they can change partway through the season is the manager. And if I was an Everton fan, I would personally want to see Lampard go and get somebody in who's, you know what, don't care what type of football they play, don't really care if they're a dinosaur or not or whatever. I just want a specialist in survival to come in and just to get a couple of players in. It is, but Everton have to be short-sighted this season. They've just got to stay up. Next season, they can maybe have a bit of a change in structure, get a new manager in, a new bright, exciting manager. But this season, Everton need to stay in the Premier League, and by doing that, they need to get a proven manager who is basically experienced at keeping teams in the Premier League, and that's what I think the most important thing is for Everton right now, rather than keeping Lampard, unfortunately.
So you're saying they should go for Sean Dyche?
Yeah, righto. I disagree. I honestly think it can come good as a good manager. You've got to think in real terms, he's probably had about 4 or 5 years in management. Full stop. Yeah. He's part of fucking Mensa, for God's sake. He's a really clever bloke. I can't see how, just a regular, someone like a Steven Gerrard, I can't see how he's not going to be better than him.
Oh, no, I don't think Gerrard's really got what it takes either. But, there's a lot of clever footballing people that never make good managers. Steve McLaren apparently is best coach that a lot of top players have ever had. But it was never a very good manager.
Hey, you're brilliant at Derby, I'll have you know.
What Lampard achieved with Derby, yeah, he got them into playoffs, but I think they were in playoffs year before that without him as well, weren't they? So did he progress on what they'd done the season before? And he'd got Mel Morris spending money like it was going out of fashion. Went to Chelsea.
It was for him, weren't it?
What?
It was going out of fashion for Mel Morris, weren't it? That's why
it literally did go out of fashion, yeah. But then he goes to Chelsea, and fair enough, probably didn't get a long enough shake at the stick. They got a transfer embargo. He had to go to Chelsea, in my opinion. You can't turn that type of job down, because if it would have worked, we look at this in a completely different situation. And Frank Lampard's one of the best managers in the country. So you've got to go there, in my opinion. You've got to be selfish in that respect and think about your career and your family. But it didn't work there, and then he went to Everton, where it's a big club, a great fan base. They didn't have the best side, they didn't have the best players, but he has had the opportunity to work with some very decent players at Everton. And like I say, when he took over, they were 17th, now they're 18th, and they're looking really bad. So that's, again, I understand where you're coming from, but my opinion of Lampard is maybe a little bit more negative than yours based on what he's actually done, which in my opinion is not a lot.
That's fair enough. But going back to your Derby comment there, where you're saying it were a playoff team, the team before, I honestly can't remember the year before, but I know for a fact when he took over Derby, they were like 18th when he took over. And then that season they had a late push and got him into playoffs. So it went an easy job when he took over at the time, and he turned him from 18th to 6th place.
I'm going to agree with Sam. And
that's admirable if that did happen, yeah.
I'm going to agree with Sam and say that he should have a bit longer at the go, because when he was at Chelsea, I disagreed with his sacking. I felt that because he'd had that transfer embargo, he could only use youth players for his side. It'd actually been quite competitive. He obviously wasn't going to go on and win the Premier League or anything, or compete with the likes of Man City or Liverpool at the time. But he was up there and he was competing without being able to buy players. And then as soon as there's that opportunity to go out there and start to spend a bit of money, it couldn't really work for him, and they let him go. They didn't really give him that sort of opportunity to buy those players and import them into that squad, so to speak. They let him go before then and brought Tuchel in. So I think that with Everton, if they're going to give him a bit of money to spend, then yeah, keep him and let him go at it and try and keep them up this season. He did well to keep them up last season, because they looked long gone last season, if I remember rightly, when he took over.
I'm not sure they were long gone. I think they brought him in, and like I say, they were 16th, so they weren't long gone. But yeah, I think he did a decent job of keeping them up. But again, you mentioned, giving money to spend. I've just reeled off four signings there, of which Lampard's he might not have decided every single one of them, but he certainly will have had a say. And, none of them have worked out. The football's not great and it's just not brilliant. And just to go back to the Derby point of view, 2017-18, I think, was the year before Lampard came in. Derby finished 6th with 75 points. 2018-19, where Lampard was the manager, Derby finished 6th with 74 points. So again, I understand your points of view, but in my opinion, I think Everton's main priority is staying in the league, and I personally don't think they'll be able to do it with Lampard. And if you're going to make a change, make it now.
Yeah, that's understandable. At the beginning of January, plenty of time to go and buy new players. If that's your thoughts, fair enough. We'll move on to the next point for you then, Skin. Talking about the transfer window, Chelsea have had plenty of rumours over the next 3 to 4 weeks who they're going to be purchasing. Kemp has already made it clear that he thinks they're going to be the team to watch next year. Potter's got a great opportunity to bring in some of them players now, give them 6 months to get themselves readjusted within the squad. A signing has been made today with plenty more in the line, so to speak. What's your thoughts on Chelsea's transfer action so far?
We've spoke briefly about Chelsea / Graham Potter's time there already. We know he came in sort of without any real time to build his own squad and sign the players that he wanted to sign. So this is his first attempt in this January transfer window. They've got a big squad already. They've got, I would say, a decent amount of depth when you look at up and down the Premier League, but there are certainly areas that they're lacking. And as we know, they've not been in the best of form. And I'm not really sure what they need to sort of look at to turn that around. Like we talk about their defence, they've got really high quality, experienced defenders there in Thiago Silva and Koulibaly. They've got Reece James, who I know has been injured, but
Koulibaly.
Koulibaly.
Go on. Koulibaly, sorry.
Koulibaly.
Yeah, my bad. They've got Reece James, who is injured, but again is, I would say, the majority of the Premier League teams would probably put him in their starting lineup if he played for them. Left back Cucurella, who played really, really well for Graham Potter at Brighton, and that form was the whole reason he got that move in the first place. In the midfield,
injured as well. Chilwell injured at left back.
Chilwell as well. When he plays and when he's sort of at 100%, has been a high quality defender. They've got quality all across the pitch, even in midfield. I'd say their main position is up top. They're leading with Kai Havertz, who I'm really not convinced is a top tier, out and out number 9 striker.
Toothless.
Yeah. Maybe he's a bit more of a sort of a number 10 kind of player, but a bit more out wide, a number 8 kind of role. But as an out and out main scorer, I've seen absolutely nothing. They've got Aubameyang, as we know, but he is aging. He's not the same player that he was when he was in the league at Arsenal, and has obviously had a bit of success at Barcelona in between those two clubs. So I would say sort of more towards the attacking side of the pitch is where they need to focus, but it would be crazy to get rid of Graham Potter, or even to speculate if he's running out of time at this point, considering the fact that he hasn't had a transfer window. But I'm not really sure what kind of players they could sign or should sign to turn it around. There's certain positions that you can see they're weak in at the moment, but they've got good quality players on paper in those positions already. So if I'm honest, I'm not really sure where the issues lie. As we know, they've got new owners. They've got a new manager. So yeah, I think this season is a write-off. They might, try to look at a bit of a cup run, like an FA Cup type, bit of success and get a trophy and a bit of confidence going into next season. But I do think we're verging on this season being a write-off already at the halfway stage. And yeah, it's going to be a bigger summer than it is a bigger January for me.
I'll answer a question for you. They need strikers, is what they need. They're so toothless. They're terrible up top. We're crossed with Kai Havertz, Mason Mount. I watched them against Forest, a poor Forest team, let's be fair, and they just offered nothing going forward, absolutely nothing. And Forest, they definitely deserve to get something out of that game. It kills me to say. But now a striker is 100% where they need to strengthen. Whether or not it's the same as United, really. Whoever's available at this particular time of year, clubs are reluctant to sell a number 9. But yeah, it's 100% striker. That's what they need.
Yeah, I'm just not sure who they go for. They've got Mkoku coming in, haven't they? But I believe that won't be finalised until the summer. He's officially signed, but won't join until the summer. So again, this season, pretty much a write-off. They've already got something, a player of that quality waiting in the wings and is a done deal. So yeah, I hope they give Potter this season, because it would be very harsh to get rid of him. And then next season will be more of a test of what the future of Chelsea Football Club looks like.
Yes, and as you just said then, they could do with an FA Cup win. To do that, they've got to get through Manchester City on Sunday, which brings us nicely on to celebrating FA Cup weekend, which has made things very difficult for everybody's locks, predictions, wildcards, which we will come on to in just a few moments' time. But first,
The giant killing round.
the giant killing round, the third round of the FA Cup. Chesterfield are in it, so I can be happy about it and look forward to the FA Cup for a change.
I'm going, mate. We'll get onto that later.
Yes, we'll get there a little bit later on. But first, we'll look back on the history of the FA Cup. And Kemp, I'm going to start with yourself by looking at your favourite FA Cup moment in history, maybe the biggest upsets, should we say?
Oh, biggest upset. I suppose the only sort of fair thing to do is go from in my lifetime.
Yeah, let's do that.
The biggest upset, I suppose, is the only one that I can use there, and I'm going to go back, and it's a bit of a strange one. And you might not remember it. And to be fair, I didn't remember it until I did a bit of research earlier and actually remembered that it happened. 2011, Stevenage Borough 3, Newcastle United 1. Now that seems crazy in today's time with Newcastle sitting third in the table. But, Stevenage Borough, a team that's always sort of hovered around the bottom division or the bottom two divisions, and not just to win, but to win by a 2-goal cushion as well. A really, obviously, unbelievable moment for Stevenage Borough fans, and one I'm sure they will never forget. I was going to go for another one involving Manchester United and Leeds because that was a momentous one. But I did end up going.
What was Jermaine Beckford, Old Trafford?
That's in the end.
Oh,
that's the
yes.
one. Yeah,
Killer.
That's the one.
Remember that?
That's what I was gonna get. I was gonna go with that one, but then I thought, at the time it was a big giant killing, but I think it was like more because it's Man United Leeds, rather than
great game,
rather than because it's a giant killing sort of thing. So yeah, Stevenage 3, Newcastle 1. Bless Stevenage, up the borough.
Sam, what about yourself?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this one, and it's impossible for me to actually. When I mention this team, I can't just particularly pick one round. So I'm just going to say Havant and Waterlooville in 2008, their FA Cup run,
cult favourites,
absolutely unbelievable. So I just had to remind myself of how good this was earlier as I was doing a bit of research. So obviously sixth tier of English football. There was in the Blue Square South. Their cup run.
They're in with Sherlin Miners Welfare, aren't they? I reckon.
Dog and Duck FC. So the cup run included wins against Conference Premier League side York, so league above them. They was in the first round. League 2 club Notts County in the second round, beat them, dusted them off, no problem. Third round was a trip to League 1 leaders at the time, Swansea. They drew 1-1 in Wales. Got to a third round replay. They beat Swansea 4-2 in the third round, and there was 3-0 up at half time, and it was just it was unbelievable. And then the win, the reward was a trip to Anfield in the FA Cup fourth round, and they led twice at Anfield. They ended up unfortunately losing the game 5-2, but yeah, went 1-0 up, went 2-1 up, and I just remember it was absolute scenes watching that. And then
can you imagine being in the away end there?
Oh, I can't imagine just being the players. Like you said, Sam, going 1-0 up, and then there's one thing going 1-0, going up 1-0,
and then doing it again,
incredible. Yeah, and imagine that feeling of oh my fucking god, we are 1-0 up, but to then concede, we know how 9 times out of 10 that then goes. It's Liverpool, bit of complacency, they're going to get battered 3, 4, 5, 6-1, but to then have the fucking
crazy,
I don't even know, to go back ahead, like you said, is unbelievable for a championship team, a League 1 team, a League 2 team. But like you said, Sam, 6th tier of football.
As you say, a reminder, there was in the Blue Square South. So that's Alfreton Town equivalent. Obviously, they're in the north.
Yeah,
it was essentially Alfreton Town going to Liverpool and leading twice. It was just absolutely unbelievable. But yeah, they lost 5-2. But I think I even seen that their player Potter, I think the striker, won player of the round in the fourth round. I think he must have scored both goals at Anfield. So yeah. That's Havant and Waterlooville 2008 for me. A very fond FA Cup memory.
Not bad that. Aggie, what about you, mate?
Mine, I was stuck between two, but I think I'm going to have to go with the 2008 FA Cup final between Cardiff and Portsmouth, because I think for both sides that was quite a big thing for both of them to get there. The other one that I was thinking
Cardiff
about
and
was
Portsmouth in final. That's outrageous, isn't it?
exactly
It is a little
that's
bit.
the thought. And the only side that either of them had to face that you could really regard as a big side that they kicked out was the fact that Portsmouth beat Manchester United 1-0 in the 6th round. or the
And Rio
quarter-final.
Ferdinand had to go in net for penalty.
He did, yep.
That's the
Remember
one.
Jersey were about 3 sizes too big for him.
And to get to
That's
the
a classic. That's a classic Neil Warnock, like not putting a keeper on.
Yeah,
bench.
definitely.
It not got Jags as backup though,
Jags
have
in
they?
there. If you got Jags in there, he saved it.
To get to the final, Portsmouth beat Ipswich, Plymouth, Preston, United and West Brom, and then beat Cardiff in the final. Throughout the entirety of that tournament, they only conceded 1 goal.
Wow.
So
It's an iconic team though. That starting 11 and bench is prime. Harry Redknapp, Wheeler dealing, your Peter
Crazy, isn't it?
Crouches, your Nico
is that
Cranshaws, your Suleiman Taris,
Is that Defoe
Diarras.
and Crouch up front?
Yeah, Defoe and
Kanu.
Crouch. Kanu was part of the team as well. David James in net. Glenn Johnson right back.
Sylvan Distan at
It's,
centre half.
Herman Horidason as
Remember
a
him.
centre back / left back hybrid.
Sylvan
So, yeah,
Distan, centre
yeah.
half.
iconic team of
Yeah,
our
brilliant.
generation's childhood.
Brilliant.
I do, just before I come on to you
Premier
though,
League years,
Skin.
them boys.
Yeah,
They were
big
100%.
time.
I do, just before I go, before I move on to your Skin, I want to give an honorary mention to, of course, the 1997 FA
I
Cup.
know.
I knew it would come in. I knew. To be
I
honest,
can't believe he didn't go with it.
I
I
didn't go
thought
with
this
it.
was yours. I
I-
definitely thought this was yours.
I honestly didn't go with it because at the time I was 5 and I didn't actually start going to Chesterfield games and watching Chesterfield until 2004 was my first game.
Yeah,
so I
that's
thought
fair.
it was a bit unfair for me to go for a game that I wouldn't have really remembered anyway. So I've gone with Portsmouth Cardiff because I remember watching that as well on TV. So Skin, will go on to you.
I've gone down the similar route of Sam in terms of not a specific game as such, but I will get onto that, but more the run. And I've gone for Wigan Athletic winning the FA Cup in 2013. They are a team that in that season got relegated from the Premier League team, and they played in the final second place Manchester United. They were off the back of winning their first league title, the Aguero goal to win their first ever Premier League championship. And yeah, the run itself to the final on paper wasn't that hard. They played Bournemouth, who at the time were a League One side. They beat Macclesfield, Huddersfield, Everton in the quarterfinals, a fellow Premier League team, and then Millwall in the semi-final. So they only played one round where they played and beat a Premier League team. So not the sort of hardest route to the FA Cup final, but they got there. There were opportunities for shocks, especially with their league form. It could have been quite easy to be a bit complacent, rest a few players, and notice that, look, we need to focus on this league and try and avoid relegation and maintain our place in the top division. But they didn't. They got to the final, and in that point in time, playing Manchester City, Man City went in as the strongest favourites in FA Cup final history, with the bookies and the odds that they were to win that game. And Wigan went on to win that match 1-0 following the Ben Watson header, which we know at the time was a huge shock in any round. But to do that in the final on the biggest stage of the UK's domestic cup calendar is something that I think, in terms of, we're talking about our lifetime or my lifetime, certainly sticks out for a team that got relegated from the Premier League that season to win the FA Cup. It's not been done before, or what hadn't been done before. It's not been done since, and it will probably be a very, 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 very long time until it's ever done again, if it is at all. So yeah, Wigan for me is the biggest cup shock.
Just before you sort of shift on from this subject, I have named obviously my upset of the FA Cup, but I wanted to just get quickly in just my favourite memory of the FA Cup, me personally, and that's got to be the 2014 at Wembley Stadium, the Sheffield United against Hull City in the semi-final of the FA Cup. We beat Fulham, we beat Forest, and we were in League One at this time as well. And we beat Charlton to get to the FA Cup semi-final, and that was a fantastic day. And I'll never forget it. Thinking at half time we were going to win it, and then at full time whistle we were at the end of the game really pushing to try and get an equaliser, and then Hull went down the other end of the pitch and unfortunately finished us off. But I'd say that's my favourite FA Cup memory.
Nice. It's memories like that bring the magic of the FA Cup alive. We've spoken about the history. In just a few moments, we'll be moving on to talk about the future as we welcome Keroin in as our first listener lock-in. Welcome back to episode 19 of Loaded Sport, and welcome to the debut of Listener Lock-In, where you've heard in the past 18 episodes us providing our locks. We're now going to welcome our first guest, Keroin, to deliver his locks. Hello, Keroin.
Hello, how are we all doing?
Good, mate. Good. How's yourself?
Amazing. I finished work and I've got a Nuki Brown, so it's all good.
Oh, bless you, bless you. How does it feel to be our first ever guest?
Amazing, but it's just being in the room. Well, not in a room, is it? But in a Zoom with you lot, it's just emotional.
Dear. It's like meeting your heroes. Never do it.
I've seen the things you guys do.
Yeah, you'll be disappointed, Wheels lot. Trust me.
I've seen the video of you lot. I could never be disappointed.
Oh,
I love that.
Anyway, swiftly moving on.
Yeah. I'm sweating on what video it is, to be honest.
Yeah, we need to be quick, or Adam's going to have a big editing job to sort out
Anyway,
tomorrow.
we're getting cancelled. Let's move on.
Up till 3 o'clock in the
We
morning.
weren't that bad.
Oh, right.
So, Keroin, welcome to Loaded Sport. Just tell us a bit about your background in football. You're supporting Newcastle. How did that really come about for yourself?
Basically, my parents have nothing really to do with football and not asked about it. And do you remember, as a kid, I think went around to my grandparents and watched England and just fell in love with Shearer.
Nice.
I thought you were going to say Kevin Keegan, then I got right excited.
No, unfortunately not. No,
Biggest sleeper
Shearer
of all
was just
time.
unbelievable. And
What a player.
I just loved him. And then ever since, it's been Newcastle. Even while we were shit, I still supported him.
You know,
Fair play to you, mate.
hypothetically, say Harry Kane beats Shearer's record.
He won't.
Are you saying he won't?
Oh,
No.
adamant.
Wow,
Didn't even let you ask the
No,
question.
wait, even let me finish. Hypothetically, if he did, you saying he won't.
Kez, learn out what hypothetically means, yeah? It means it might not happen.
Right.
Just imagine it does.
So imagine he does. Well, you've already essentially answered my question. Would you still say Shearer was the better striker?
Yeah, because he played in a shitter team.
Yeah, that's true. That's
He played.
definitely true.
He played with Blackburn, who weren't great. I know they won the league.
Oh,
And
they had
obviously-
a decent side at the time.
Premier
Him and Chris Sutton up front.
Yeah, I
Oh,
know.
right,
but
it's it.
it's not quite Son, is it?
Sherwood?
Next to him,
No, it's not.
but no, I don't. I think he's bit. I would say a penalty merchant, but he's not even that anymore, is he?
Oh, like fucking hell, he's got knives out for
He's
Kane
been
here.
saving
Hates
that,
him,
hasn't
doesn't
he?
he?
Jesus.
Oh,
I'm
no.
waiting for
he-
someone to ask me about him.
he only hates him because he's Shearer's under pressure. His records are under pressure from
I
Kane.
believe
That's
I
the
can't
main
believe how confident he was.
No.
From
No pressure from Kane.
Wow.
reason. Very quick follow-up question on your Newcastle fandom. You mentioned that you're drinking a Nuki Brown before we started the segment.
Yes.
Do you actually like it, or do you force yourself to like it because it's from Newcastle?
A bit of both.
Bit of both.
No, with
Nuki
Nuki Brown.
It's all right.
Nuki Brown's a
Nice.
lovely drop for me.
You can't have too many of it. It's a bit heavy.
Oh, 100%. It's like Guinness, isn't it? You can 2 or 3, I think, your limit for Guinness for me.
Yeah, I'm not too keen on Guinness, to be fair. But Nuke Brown, you can have a couple, then you're like, never mind. That's me done for tonight.
Yeah, you don't need your dinner after a couple of them, do you?
Nah.
Okay,
Full
so
protein.
as a
Come on then,
Newcastle
Aggie.
fan,
Let's fucking do it. Let's do it. I've been excited for this for ages since we came up with the idea and we announced it. The schedule is full. Let's get stuck into the main event.
Dawson's been sat there nursing
will.
a semi.
I'm gonna let him.
Oh,
I'm gonna
yeah.
let him kick things off.
Oh.
Dawson, go for it.
Am
No,
I
just
kicking off now?
before you do, just a big
No,
shout out.
stop.
No, I'm not cock teasing you, although I am a little.
You
bit.
are.
Just a big shout out to everybody that's responded and that's joined in on this listener lock-in. And like Dawson said, we have got pretty much a full schedule. So we're
Absolutely.
looking forward to everybody who's listening and everybody who's coming on. We're looking forward to having you on the show. But right now we've got Kez, we've got our boy Kez, and we've got Dawson starting the listener lock-in. So let's do
It's
it.
time.
More or less fully booked until May. Unreal, that.
Woo, baby.
So-
No, I'm not surprised. Your lads are smashing it, to be fair.
Oh, thank you, mate.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, mate. You can transfer me that 20 quid on PayPal later, mate, for saying that. Appreciate that.
Spend
right,
it. Contactless don't work.
right, Keroin. So, as you know, this weekend is the third round of the FA Cup. You listen to the show, you know how it works. So, your lock of the weekend being from Friday up until Monday afternoon from the FA Cup. And this weekend, with it being the FA Cup, so it's the FA Cup, League One, League Two, and then the National League. Who is your lock of the weekend? The team that you are most confident will win this weekend?
no surprise to anyone, it's going to be Newcastle against Wednesday.
Is
Ooh,
it?
oh.
Are they away as
Yeah.
well?
They are away. They're
Yeah.
at Hillsborough.
Away the
Talk
lads.
us through it. Is that biased or what's the logic?
Both. A little biased, but we don't concede. Wednesday aren't doing great. They need to focus on the league more than what
Wednesday
we do.
aren't doing great. They're second, mate. They're flying.
No, to be fair, they're not. The third, I think. I don't think they are second.
I think they need to
And
focus
to
on the
back
league
him
more
up-
than what we do.
Yeah, to back Kez up here.
They're second.
All
They're
I've
second.
heard, are they second now?
Yeah.
All I've heard in the last few weeks is Wednesday fans complaining.
That's
about the style of
same
football that they've
same
been
at work.
playing.
Everyone's
They
saying
have
how
been
shit
winning.
they
They
are.
have been winning games and grinding them out, but they've not been playing great football. So I can see where Kez is coming from.
Talk to a few Wednesday fans, and they were saying with more as a Wednesday fan, they're more asked about focusing on the league than a cup that they're not going to win anyway.
Ooh,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. Woo
fair.
wow.
Interesting. So
we need to have
Newcastle.
something.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm
that is
absolutely
true.
astounded at even Kemp saying that they haven't played good football. They beat Cambridge 5-0
No,
last time.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I don't want you to get it twisted.
No, that's what I'm saying. I can't believe you've heard people
Yeah.
that have said that.
Mate, I
just
can't
looking at
believe
the
they're
recent
saying it.
results.
I can't believe they're saying it. They're unbeaten in God knows how long. But I put Football Heaven on, which is obviously a local BBC Radio Sheffield show, and it's absolutely every single night. I listen to Wednesday fans coming on saying we need to get rid of Darren Moore. We need to get rid of Darren Moore. He's not doing. We're not good enough. We're not good enough. I can't believe it myself.
God.
So I can understand why Kez has been, told that by his workmates because, like I say, a lot of Wednesday fans they don't seem happy at the moment,
Some
despite the
fans
fact
are
that
just
they are
fickle,
second
though,
in the
aren't they?
league.
So just flicking through the results, they've had one loss since the 8th of October, and that
Yeah.
was in the FA Cup third round against Southampton on penalties.
FA
One
Cup
loss
third
since
round.
Done well.
Yeah,
They're playing
Sorry,
League
EFL,
Cup,
EFL,
EFL.
EFL third round. That were on penalties. That's the last time they lost since October.
We dragged out a nasty draw against Arsenal.
Did.
Yes. No, it's fair enough, mate. Fair enough.
I can only take it from the response that he's not taken anyone's pick, so that's a good start for Keroin on the Unloaded Sport, and that's a high bar for everyone else. To
Wait till
follow
we get to the
because-
scorer.
Yeah, I'm sure someone will be mad at you. Adam, you've spun the wheel
I
for the
have.
rest of us, mate. Who's next up for the locks this weekend?
First up this weekend is Kemp.
Ah, you motherfucker!
Agatha Christie, man with the mic, you little salute. Oh, I'm so happy with that. That's amazing. Thank
There
you
we
very
have it.
much for that, matey. Much appreciated.
Thank the wheel,
Um,
not that cunt.
Oh, bless him. No, thank you, Aggie. Thank you, mate. I'm going to go with Aston Villa. I mentioned I was so complimentary of my Stevenage Borough being FA Cup upset against Newcastle, but this time I think they're going to come up short. Aston Villa are going to win fairly comfortably. It's 4:30 on Sunday afternoon. Aston Villa are my lock of the week.
They were my backup. They
I've got
were.
them as backup as well.
Yeah,
Mm.
they were
Oh
also
no,
my
that
backup.
means we've all got same fucking lot.
Yes.
Good
Oh,
chance.
Shit's about to get nasty.
Right.
Ah, come
Next
on,
up
give me
on
that
the
wheel.
Sam, I am sorry, mate.
Yeah.
It is Skin.
Oh no! He popped for it.
Big
He
sell.
fucking popped.
Big
My
sell.
hands were in air.
Oh, no.
He fucking popped for it.
Fuck you, Ag.
Go on, Ag. Who is it?
Skin.
Get in. Right. I am going 12:30 Saturday, Leicester to win away at Gillingham.
Holy shit!
Back in the early
Paused.
kickoff.
Yeah, I know. It's FA Cup though. I'll pause there just to see if I took anyone's pick. Leicester lost 3 in a row, so not in the best form. But since the return of the domestic football, the teams they have lost to are Newcastle, Liverpool, and Fulham. Fulham, I know, don't sound like the best result or the best team to lose to, but are having a fantastic season. Before the World Cup, they were in very, very good form, and Gillingham is the perfect game to start turning their season back around again. Gillingham for the year 2022, when you combine all league teams, sat bottom. They lost on Monday very closely to Stevenage 1-0, and I think that as the least chance of a cup set this weekend. So yeah, Leicester to win away at Gillingham.
I can't believe you've gone for an away game.
I know,
Sold out.
mate. I know, but it is FA Cup, so that's about that's the gap I need to
Mhm.
be able to back an away game. So yeah,
Okay. Sam, you are up next.
Yes, I thought it'd be you. So has Spurs at home against Pompey been taken?
no, mate.
Fuck
You know
off.
damn well it hasn't.
Don't you dare.
Ag, is that yours, mate?
It is mine.
Well, it ain't anymore because it's mine. It's taking Tottenham Hotspurs at home against Pompey. I can't lie, I had Villa at home against Stevenage, and I had Leicester to beat Gillingham away. They were my other two backups, and that was it.
Nice.
So if you'd have gone first, I would have been completely fucked. So, yeah, Spurs at home against Pompey is my lock of the week. Thank you very much.
Can you give a reason
then,
why I
Aggie.
scramble?
I mean, it's Tottenham against Pompey. Do I need to give that much of a reason?
Yes, please.
My other, honourable mention.
Yes,
if you
yeah,
want,
go on.
I was going to do an honourable mention. Coventry at home against Wrexham would have been probably the one.
They were my backup.
Yeah, they probably
Interesting.
one I'd have pivoted to, but yeah, I'm sticking with the Spurs at home against Pompey.
I had Arsenal up until when Dawson messaged me saying,
Monday.
"Oh, not Monday." I was like,
Yeah.
"Shit."
Yeah, not Monday night because we'd have been recording. Yeah, I might sort of start stepping on toes with wildcards here, Kez. So if you can, don't pick whatever match you've gone for there if it is in the FA Cup. But are there any teams that you've highlighted or you can see potentially causing an upset this weekend?
I was intrigued a little by Villa. I expect Villa to win, but also I don't know.
Don't
There's
say
something
that,
telling
mate.
me. Something telling me.
Fancy it, Stevenage.
Yeah, I don't know why. Do you expect to be upset?
If it were at Stevenage, I'd be more inclined to back you. But at Villa Park, it's a
If
tough
it were at
place to go
Stevenage,
for.
I wouldn't be back in Villa.
Yeah,
Put it that way.
definitely.
My other one is I don't know who you'd class as favourites though. Be Burnley, Bournemouth,
It's a tough one, that.
because Bournemouth don't look great, but Burnley are looking good. But you'd imagine that are they going to fight for the cup? If they chances are they're going to drop.
Well, to be honest with you, we'll get to it in a minute. But one of my wild cards is something similar to that, so I'll go over it with you when we get to
Go
it.
on then, Adam. You've had plenty of time
We're
now.
all good. I've got one. I'm going to go with Forest away against Blackpool. Forest, yes, they've
A
not.
lock.
A lot.
Yeah.
Sam is so
That's
mad
a
about
big
that.
A lock. Forest just outside of relegation in the
these.
Premier League. Blackpool third bottom in the Championship at the moment. So neither team performing too well. But I think Forest, based upon how they played the other day against Southampton, I think should have enough to see off Blackpool. So I'm going to go with Notts Forest as the lock. And Sam, I'll apologise in advance for.
It's all right,
getting that
mate.
wrong.
I ain't backing these FA Cup in it. I ain't backing it.
Right, so I was just before I got into Kez's scorer, I was going to ask you two very quick questions there, Sam. So my number one question was, on a scale of 1 to 10, how fuming are you with Ag that he's picked that as his lock? But I suppose it's irrelevant now.
Right,
And my second question was going to be, and I suppose it's not relevant for this week based on what you've just said, but will be moving forward. But you always put £10 on our combined football and NFL
will I be
locks.
including theirs?
Will you be including the listeners?
I will not. I will not be.
Okay,
I did.
I'll
I've already
take this
thought about it.
personally.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't, mate. We have to put with mine and Kemp's predictions. So they took their bad.
I thought I got away with
Mine are
that.
all right, actually.
As long
Yeah.
as that
Not
beat.
bad.
Who was it that got one last week?
Both of them.
Adam
Adam
and
and
Kemp,
Kemp.
yeah.
Adam
Yeah,
was
any
saying-
week,
but
and
no,
that'd be
Adam
me.
who's saying is all right. Actually, He got one.
No. I got one last week, but it's not like that's an every week thing. With Kemp, that's like a high score.
Oi, hey.
No, I've already thought about it. I'm not going to be having the listener lock in my £10 eightfold because it's obviously
Fair
an
enough.
eightfold in it, so it's NFL included.
I might just for the laugh, but we'll see. I might have a £5 or no, actually, I might have a £1 bet every week. No, right, I'm committing to
Fucking
it.
are you okay?
I'm committing to
How
it
much
every
room have
week.
you
I'm
had?
going to have a £1 bet on our listeners' lock, scorer, wildcard, and their 3 score predictions as well. And
Oh,
if
Jesus.
someone over the season gets 6 out of 6, what a fucking win! So, right, anyone that's listening to this and moving forward, take this shit seriously because I've got a quid on it. All right.
Let me change all my answers.
Scorer, Kez, of the weekend, same leagues, same days. What player are you most confident will put the ball in the back of the net this weekend?
Well, I know you said about going first, but I had 3 in mind, but obviously I don't want to say them.
Just in case.
I'm going to go with Mitro.
Oh, Mitrovic, yeah?
yeah.
Talk us through why.
He's just an unbelievable player. He seems to score regularly. Fulham rely on him more than they do anyone else. And I'm confident that against a lower side, he's going to find that form that he did in the Championship as well.
Yeah, away at
Yeah,
Hull
it's a
is
good
that
point.
perfect opportunity. I suppose it would come down to whether or not he's rested, but
Well, this is
comfortable
why
out
it's
there,
been
they
so
might fancy a
difficult.
cup run.
Yeah. So I've looked at a few players from big side, shall we say.
Yeah,
I had someone from Newcastle lined up and I was like, yeah. And then I thought, are we going to bother playing him? I mean, we probably will, but I don't know. I just thought Mitro's the outlier for me, that even if he comes on with 10, 15 minutes to play, he's going to have a chance, isn't he?
Yeah, fair enough, mate. It's a solid choice. Aggie, I'm going to assume that you're up first for the scorers.
I am, yeah. I've got 2 written down, and I'm actually going to go for the one that I've got written down as the backup because I think that he's the more favourable one.
It.
It's not so much shitty. I just think that his stats look better.
Shit it, mate.
Shit it.
All right,
you fucking shit it.
You say it how you want to say
Definition
it.
of shit it, that.
I'm going for Aaron Collins from Bristol Rovers. I've avoided FA Cup just because I don't think there's going to be... I can't really predict who's going to be starting for certain teams. A bit like what Keroin just said. Aaron Collins, 13 goals and 10 assists in League One so far this season, and he's going up against Cambridge, who just conceded 5 against Sheff Wednesday midweek. Don't get me wrong, Sheff Wednesday are a very good side, but Aaron Collins is the top goal scorer in League One at the moment, so I'm going to stick with Aaron Collins.
Fair enough, but can we ask who your first or your initial first choice was?
Can I say that afterwards, so I'm not like stepping on any of your guys' toes?
I was thinking the same thing.
Fair enough. We'll come back to that then. Who's next?
Sam.
Ooh, is it?
Yeah.
So I struggled this week because I was looking through the FA Cup fixtures, and like I said earlier, you don't know who's rested and who isn't. I was tempted to dip into League One, and I still am, to be honest.
I wish you'd dip into me.
He's shit it.
Oh, what again?
Can I guide him in?
Shit it, listen to Ag.
Yeah, of course you can, mate.
What you say?
Can I guide him
Guess
in?
just ask him if you
Oh,
got me.
please. Right, okay. So I am gonna. Oh, I've bottled it. I've changed it last second. You know.
Oh my
I've-
God, lads, come on!
I've got a scorer and a backup written down in front of me, and I'm not going with either of them. I've bottled.
Let
the
me
FA
just
Cup.
remind you.
Going on.
Let me just remind you that the spreadsheet is now in play for 2023. So
Yeah,
start as you mean to get on, and have some confidence in your picks.
Well, that's even more the reason why, because I've got the 2 players I've got. You just don't know if they're going to be. They're like both top strikers for their teams. So, are they going to be rested? Are they going to start? I'd rather take the risk of going with a League One, and I'm going to go Plymouth, and I'm going to go for Whittaker, who's been in some fine form for Plymouth.
Okay.
Cool. Who's next?
Skin.
I thought so. So I have changed my mind about 4 times this week. A lot of it due to the FA Cup, as we've discussed. Originally, my first choice was Thomas Asante for West Brom away at Chesterfield because he had been in good form. And I was like, could they potentially rest a couple of players with him playing a non-league team? I then went with Darwin Núñez for Liverpool, home to Wolves on Saturday night. Yes, he's had a lot of stick for the amount of chances he's had, but I thought it was a perfect opportunity to bag. But I'm going to stick my neck out. I'm going to hope that he starts, and I'm going to go for the man in form, and that is Marcus Rashford at home for Manchester United against Everton on Friday night.
Nice.
Kemp.
So when I was listening to all you boys then and you were saying, I've changed my mind, I thought, come on, boys, what are you doing? You know, it's FA Cup, it should be. I've changed my mind, boys. Like anybody else. I am going to take, and I shouldn't be doing this because of my piss poor form in predictions, wildcard scorers, etc. I am going to take Garnacho for Manchester United.
Oh my God.
He has gone big.
I think this is a
deep.
game where Garnacho will get a start. Ten Hag will probably want to rest a few players, and I think Garnacho will be on from the very beginning. And I think he's a very talented player, and against that Everton defence, I can see it being a bit of a rout. So I'm going to take that logic and run with it and cross my fingers and toes and go for Garnacho as my scorer of the week.
I respect it.
Thank you, mate.
That was one of my backups.
Oh, cheers, Kez.
I was talking to one of your mates, Dawson, Nathan, earlier.
Yes, mate.
And
Big
I
Nate
said,
shout out.
Yeah,
said,
big shout out to Nave.
I reckon Garnacho's going to score, but I bottled it and went Mitro anyway.
Oh, that would have been interesting. Well, I suppose Kemp changed last minute, so it wouldn't have mattered too much.
I had Bobby Firmino and Danny Ings, but I've changed it to Garnacho at the end.
I like it. Kez, the wild card, and for just to clarify for yourself and to our listeners that will be joining us, the wild card is classed as a team that is not the bookies' favourite in their matchup. So is this going to be, are you going to go big for a massive cup set, or have you got something a little bit less than that? What's your wild card for this weekend?
I have just double checked on Sky Bet. Other betting applications are available. But I'm going to back Borough.
Oh, they were my backup.
You little monkey.
Borough against Brighton. Borough playing great football under Carrick.
Yeah.
I know Brighton are in form as well, but I'm hopeful. got to remain hopeful with them.
Yeah, they were my backup, mate. So I really fucking hope no one's took my first choice now, but we'll soon find out.
Well, we're going to start with Kemp.
I'm going with Burnley. They are not
we
the
mentioned
bookies' favourites on Sky Bet. As we've mentioned, I think it's going to be a fairly close game. They are in great form at the moment. I do agree, Kez, that it's not their number one priority. Their number one priority is getting into the Premier League once again. But I think they're going to pull out a bit of an upset, and they're my wild card this week.
Okay, Skin.
Thank God for that. I am going to stay away from the FA Cup. I'm going to League One, and I am going for top of the table Plymouth to win away at Bolton, which might seem like it's not eligible for a wild card, but you can currently get 5-2 for Plymouth to win. Bolton are in very good form. They're unbeaten in 5, winning 3 of those, but Plymouth have won their last 5, and it is going to be one of their tougher games of the second half of the season. They're going to need to try and get some kind of result to stay away from Sheff Wednesday and Ipswich, who is currently chasing them. But I'm confident they can go all the way and get 3 points. So Plymouth for me this weekend.
Nice one. Sam.
I'm struggling, to be honest. I was going to go Blackpool at home to beat Forest, but they're not doing very well, are they?
So the magic of the FA Cup, mate.
Yeah, there's not much magic in that one. You know what?
Didn't you just say something about me going for Forest to beat Blackpool as my lock as well?
Yeah, I didn't rate it.
There's no magic either way.
I didn't rate it. That's what I was saying. So my potential wild card was Blackpool to beat Forest. That's why I didn't rate your Forest lock. So I am going to piss Keroin off, and I am going to have Sheff Wednesday to beat Newcastle.
Oh my God!
Wow.
I used to like you.
It's going to be my lock. Wild card this week. As I mentioned earlier, Sheff Wednesday are actually in really good form. They've lost once since October. Newcastle, obviously, we know how good they are. Defensively, absolutely sound. But as I think Kempe just mentioned there, magic of the FA Cup and all that. So Hillsborough rocking, I think, on what time is it? 6 o'clock kickoff. 6 o'clock kickoff, yeah. I think place will be bouncing. I think they might just surprise a few folk there.
Okay.
They don't bode well because last time they were bouncing, Mark Duffy went up and scored and we won 4-2. But there you go. Carry on.
I thought you were going a different way with that then.
Yeah, leave it.
I'm glad it didn't.
Moving on. My wild card, and neither of mine actually got taken as a bit of a surprise, but I'm going to go with the National League team that I feel the most confident is going to cause an upset, and that is Wrexham to win away against Coventry.
Oh, you motherfucker. I thought you were going to go town.
I never go against or for Chesterfield. Wrexham to beat Coventry. I think Coventry haven't won a game since the Championship returned, and that's 6 games without a win. Wrexham are on fine form, Coventry on a downward spiral. So if it's going to happen from a National League side, as much as I'd love for us to beat West Brom, I think it's going to be Wrexham to beat Coventry.
Fair enough. So, Keroin, as part of our loaded sport competition, the listener lock-in, one thing that we're doing alongside getting you to take part in our usual stuff is giving you 3 games from the upcoming weekend to predict a score for after 90 minutes. There will be replays, so it doesn't matter too much. But I'm going to give you 3 games, mate. I want to give me your score prediction, and then that will give you a potential score out of 6. So your first game is the team that you support, which will be the first game for everyone, and that is Sheffield Wednesday versus Newcastle.
Well, I'm going to have to back my boys. I've got them as my lock, haven't I?
You have.
You've got
to go 2-0. I think it'll be a comfortable 2-0.
Okay.
Nothing too fancy, I hope.
Well, we'll soon find out, won't we? But that seems like a relatively comfortable and calm result without too many issues. Next up, mate, is Friday night's game, Manchester United versus Everton. What's your score prediction for that?
As much as I hate to say it, I think Man United are going to run them ragged a little bit, and it'll be 3-1.
3-1. Interesting. So that is your prediction for that. And finally, to complete your 6 questions in the listener lock-in, Sunday, the main event of the FA Cup third round, Manchester City versus Chelsea.
The big one.
As it stands, 1-0, but I'm saying 2-0 at the weekend for City.
Okay, interesting. What's
Yeah,
your thoughts on
I
that?
agree with that one.
Potential rests across the board.
I think a few rests, but then not only that, City's academy, the players that seem to be produced out of it, just they're turning up in the first team already. You don't see many Chelsea players playing in the first team, or academy players rather. So I think City might run ragged a little bit.
Fair enough, mate. So that is your 6 questions, and you are the first person to ever complete that in the listener lock in history. So just to recap, your lock of the weekend is Newcastle to beat Sheffield Wednesday. Your scorer of the weekend is Mitrovic for Fulham against Hull. Your wild card is Middlesbrough to beat Brighton. And your score predictions are Newcastle to beat Sheffield Wednesday 2-0, Manchester United to beat Everton 3-1, and Manchester City to beat Chelsea 2-0. As promised, throughout the rest of the season, throughout this competition, I will put £1 on that combination of results all coming in. And if I win, I will get £514.50. And if I win throughout the season, I will give the person that provides me with that or those predictions 20% of the winning. So, Keroin,
if it comes in, I'll give you 20p towards it.
Happy days, mate. Happy days. Keroin, thank you very much for joining us, mate. We'll review your predictions on Monday's review show. For listen out to that, and we'll get the leaderboard started on social media. But yeah, we really appreciate you joining us, mate. You've been class in promoting us and taking part in the forum and everything else, and we look forward to having you a part of our fan club and our supporters group as we continue to grow. But
all I'm saying is, if you want to bid off anyone, not mention anyone's names because I don't particularly know who to pick. I'm happy to drop in.
It's got to be Mudge, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's got to be Mudge. It's
Definitely.
Well,
I think we'll all agree that in the future, we'll definitely get you back on, Kez, because you've been absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much.
Cheers,
for coming
I
on today. We
that.
appreciate it.
Yeah, cheers, Kez. Enjoyed that.
As I said to Dawson earlier, how about them Vikings?
Oh, mate, you've had to fucking ruin yourself. Get some fucked up, lad.
You've got one chance now to potentially save it. The closing question that we are going to ask everybody that comes on our show, and I'm going to spoil it a little bit for you. I'm going to take away your probably obvious answer. You can't say Alan Shearer. Who is your sporting hero and why?
Oh, don't. There's a player that I absolutely adore, and I wish I didn't. Morton Gamps Pedersen.
Wow.
What?
You've got to say why. You can't leave it on that.
My first ever game with Newcastle Blackburn, we lost 1-0. The bastard punched the ball in the goal. But tell you what, he could fucking strike a free kick.
He was class. He was absolutely class. But that's those left field.
Yeah, I was waiting for like Nobby Solano or something like that. Yeah, brilliant.
Lee Bowie, Kieran Diet.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us,
Craig
mate.
Bellamy's assistant manager at Burnley.
Brilliant. Is he?
Yeah. How random's that?
That's very random. That they must have him and company must have linked up in their Man City playing days. But yeah, that's everyone's sporting fact of the day.
I thought you'd enjoy that.
So thank you, Keroin, for your locks and predictions this week. In just a few moments' time, we'll be back to discuss the Darts World Championship reaching its conclusion and just how well Loaded Sport did in the predictions. Welcome back to episode 19 of Loaded Sport. We're now going to move on to be talking about the conclusion of the World Championship of Darts that finished just this past weekend at the Alexandra Palace in London. Skin, over to you.
What do you want me to say? I kind of feel like, look, we did the segment before the tournament started or on the day the tournament started, and I was left to it because at the time we were recording up to me, you, Aggie, and Sam. And you two haven't really got much history of being a darts fan, so just said, look, you take it away, make your prediction, give any thoughts, and stick the Loaded Sport name to it. Now, I know Sam is making some rather energetic and excitable noises. He watched the final, and I think it'd be better if we, from a complete, I'd say a newbie's perspective, get his opinion. We don't need the expertise as such of of anything. But as a new fan, as someone that turned it on because you were hearing sort of good things about the game, what were your thoughts, Sam, as an entry level to darts?
Pure entry level. So I'll lay my cards out. Obviously I know what kind of a nine darter is, and I know your basics of darts, but I've never really get it to time of day. And it wasn't until that particular leg with the almost
second leg of the third set.
Yes, the almost 2 9 darters. And I seen you and Kemp going absolutely batshit crazy in chat, and I thought, this is sounding a bit of me. This a bit tasty. So I flicked it on, didn't I? And I watched it from pretty much that point on. So I must admit, I did miss the greatest part of the match. But
the greatest part of darts history, mate.
Darts history, yeah, of course it was. And now, as you say, as an amateur looking in on it, it was a fantastic occasion. I thought he might have lost it a bit towards the end. I must admit, when Van Gerwen started getting a little bit momentum, didn't he? But no, I think it's got me hooked. Now, I think it's got me hooked. I might have to go and buy myself a little dartboard and see. I've definitely got the frame for it, so why not?
Look, try not to sort of think that darts is always like that, because Kemp, I'm sure you'll agree, like even taking that leg out of it, and I know that leg was such a big part of it and such a historic moment in the game, and will be a leg and a moment that's played for generations, but it's not always that good. That genuinely will go down as one of the best finals of all time, as one of the best darts matches of all time. So it's a great entry level. And yeah,
mate, you're going to see me on BDO next year. Don't make no mistake.
Aggie will be there, front row, front and centre, golf clapping you on. But yeah,
I'll get your.
Do you not remember, Skin?
Media passes.
When we used to play darts, I used to be the one that did the standing at the side, reading out the numbers every time people had hit doubles, trebles, and whatnot, and taking the scores. I think I did that for a final that you was in as well.
Yes, mate. There you go, lads. That gives you an idea of the level I'm at.
I'm glad you've said that, because funnily enough, that's always been the reason why I've stayed away from darts, because I'm thick as fuck when it comes to maths, and the thought of counting backwards from 105.
Mate, no,
101. I'm 18 on
it. It's so weird, right? It's so weird. So I mentioned earlier when we were talking about darts, I had a dartboard at home growing up, and I played a lot. And it'll surprise you how much that helps you. I know there's only so much maths within that window, but it will. Yeah. Like, I watch darts now, and they'll throw a dart that's not the dart that they'll say in the thing, and I'll know exactly what they've got left, exactly what they need to be able to finish. But that is through playing darts. Like, it's weird how it sort of sits with you. It's very strange. But no, look, I very fortunately enough put the loaded sport name to Michael Smith winning the tournament. Pre-tournament, he was the fourth favourite behind Peter Wright, Gerwin Price, and the man he beat, Michael Van Gerwen, at 6-1. But look, Michael Smith is a man that previously had been in 10 major tournament finals, not 10 World Championship finals. He'd been in 2 before, but 10 major tournament finals. In every single one, he lost. And he'd always been a talent. He'd always had the potential. But, you know, any player or any team at any level in any sport, if you're in 10 finals and you lose them all, you start to wonder how much of that potential is just that, and how much of it will be realised. And it was starting to look like that might not be the case. Darts, had a tournament, their first sort of big tournament in America, not far off this time last year, set in Madison Square Garden, which Michael Smith won. It wasn't classed as a major tournament, but he did win it, and that was seen as the potential turning point. And then, as I mentioned in that preview, in November, a month or so before the World Championship started, he won his first ever major tournament, winning the Grand Prix, which is a top 3 tournament in the darting calendar. So that is why I said that, look, as I mentioned in the preview, he always had the potential. His was more the mental side of it, of keeping himself together in those clutch moments and seeing it through. And it was so many times where he had not... The players that had beat him hadn't won finals as such, but he'd lost them through how he just lost his head and threw it away. And that's why that Grand Prix in November was such a pivotal moment in his career. And look, he's now gone on and won the World Championship by a comfortable margin in the end, against a player that had won their quarters and semi-finals, a combined total of 11-0 in Michael Van Gerwen. So full credit to Michael Smith. I think now he's classed as a world number 1 after winning that tournament, and he is going to be dominant now over the next few years and over the next few tournaments, because the one thing that was stopping him from doing that was just getting that first one on the board. He's now got 2, including the biggest one of them all. So Yeah, I'm very confident Michael Smith is going to add a lot more trophies over the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, and hats off to both yourself and to Michael Smith, because you called Michael Smith winning it at the start of the tournament, and I'm not sure how many people did. So, and I certainly didn't. So, so hats off to you on that one. And obviously, you guys have talked about the game and how amazing it was. And like you said, Dawson, there as a darts fan, watching the darts as much as I do, I watch the match play, I watch the Premier League, I watch the World Championships, and it's I will never see that again. That was a moment in time. I think I said to Sam, it was like darts' equivalent of the Aguero moment, and it really was. You'll never ever see that again. It was so special, and for that to be happening with the two, what I think are now the two greatest players in the world, in the biggest tournament in the final, that'll never happen again. And what a moment that was for darts, and what a moment that was for new fans or a casual audience to bring them into darts. I've seen
Ariel Hawani,
MMA reporter Ariel Hawani talking about darts. Now he wants to come to the World Championships next year.
Did you see Sam, the interaction between him and Wayne Mardle? Who, by the way, shout out to Wayne Mardle. One of the greatest. He could not speak.
He could not speak.
One of the greatest sporting calls of all time.
Unbelievable call.
As you say, Ariel was talking about the darts on his show. Yeah. They hooked up on Twitter, and Wayne basically said, "Look, if you're ever in the UK, if you ever fancy an out of darts, let me know." And I'll be honest, I know we're very early into 2023, but I did not have that on my bingo card of seeing Ariel and Wayne Mardle
it's interesting
with each other on Twitter. But...
Well, it's interesting because the Premier League is in Nottingham the same weekend that the UFC's in London. And
there we go.
Ariel Hawani
is a Forest fan.
Ariel Hawani is a Forest fan, unfortunately for you, Sam. So but yeah, I mean, going back to my original point, not just journalists and podcasters and content creators are going to be getting more involved in darts because of those scenes and because of that game and that moment.
Yeah.
But more casual audiences like Sam, you say you used to play a little bit and sort of always been on the periphery, and it got you us going mad about it. It got you watching the game. You've seen the highlight, you've seen the clips, you've seen the call from the commentators, and hopefully that means that going forward you'll start watching the darts and they'll have got a new /old/ renewed fan in you there, Sam. So I think it was a great night for darts all round, and as a darts fan, those are the moments that you love to see.
Absolutely.
100%, and we'll be looking forward to hearing more about the Darts Championships as the year goes on. In just a few moments' time, we'll be back to discuss week 18, the final week of the NFL
Why
season.
do you always struggle with that?
I don't know. Welcome back to episode 19 of Loaded Sport. We are just about to start previewing the final week of the NFL season, but before we do, there's an incident that took place on Monday Night Football between the Bengals and the Bills that we're going to address first of all. Skin, over to you.
Yes, mate. One of the unfortunate potential sort of consequences or side effects or whatever you want to call it of playing in such a tough and rough sport as American football. Cincinnati Bengals face Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football, and during that game, early in that game, Damar Hamlin suffered a cardiac arrest. I don't think it's relevant to discuss what happened just before that or what potentially caused that, because it was completely innocent. I've seen people online slating the incident before and the player involved.
Shocking.
And I think it's
shocking.
It's absolutely disgusting. So we don't need to get into that. But yeah, Damar Hamlin took a hit, as is the norm in that sport. We see it every single game, every single week, and suffered a cardiac arrest shortly after collapsing on the field. And yeah, the medical staff were straight on the field, obviously trying to perform CPR and sort of revive him. Players were visibly shocked on the field, as you would expect, and eventually Hamlin was put into the back of an ambulance and taken to a local hospital. I will point out as well that the fan response to that was one of the most classiest things, I suppose. I know it's probably not the best word to use, but
No, I think
responses
it is. I think it's fair.
that I've seen in of sport. The rumor is that the NFL were looking for the players to restart. The players didn't want to, so they left the field to a standing ovation from all the fans. And then about an hour later, it was decided to postpone the game. There's been no news on whether or not that game will be replayed, restarted, cancelled, or whatever it might be. But again, that's irrelevant. Unfortunately, about an hour or so before we started recording this episode, news was released that Damar Hamlin had awoke during the night. He had communicated to doctors and family via writing, as he is currently on. He's got a breathing tube to help with oxygen. And I think a positive sign is the fact that one of, if not his first question, was if the Bills had won that game, obviously to then find out that it had been postponed after what happened. So I'm really glad that news came out, because there hadn't been a lot of news in the days since it happened, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to say if that news hadn't come out. But the signs are positive that Hamlin will make a recovery, whether that's to end up playing back on the field or whatever. I don't think at this stage it matters. The most important thing is that he is still with us. He is awake. He is responding. He is communicating, and that is a massive credit to the medical staff that were available on Monday night in Cincinnati. So yeah, I thought we had to mention it. We couldn't just get into our usual stuff, our usual laugh without sort of bringing it up. But yeah, our thoughts are with Damar Hamlin and his family. I think one of probably the only positive to come out of this situation. Damar Hamlin does have a charity that looks at sort of donating toys to sort of less fortunate families and children, with only a couple of thousand as a goal, and it's in the multiple millions in donations since the incident. So yeah, definitely. There's been no news on whether or not he's aware of that information, but I'm sure as he continues to recover and sees that, he'll be blown away and by the response, and ultimately the larger community that will benefit from that support that he's been given. So yeah, our thoughts are with him, and it's great to hear that he's starting to make a recovery.
Lovely words.
Okay, we move on to discuss this weekend's action. Week 18 of the NFL season, the final week of the regular season before wildcard weekend. As we know, Skin absolutely loves that weekend, even more so if his side can make it into the playoffs. So Sam, I'm going to start with you and the permutations for both the AFC and the NFC.
You know what? I was thinking about this, and going back to what Skin mentioned, I'm not going to touch too much on the AFC side of permutations, just because we don't quite know, what they're doing with the Buffalo game, and we don't quite know the order it's going to fall and whether it's going to be a non-contest. So I'm not going to really touch too much on the AFC side of the top tier of the seedings. So I'm going to start with the NFC. And obviously there's essentially one place left up for grabs, and it's my boys, your boys, and the Lions. It's a win and in situation for Green Bay. Your boys need a win paired with a Lions win, if I'm right. Is that right?
Yep. Or a Green Bay and Lions tie, apparently, also does it for us if we win.
Right, okay. I don't think it's going to end in a tie. I think it's going to be one of them situations where, any team would rather go for a 2-pointer and let each other win it than, I think, letting Seattle win. That's how I'd see it, I think. But yeah, it's all to play for, and we've obviously been flexed to Sunday Night Football, which I'm not too happy about, but
neither am I. I don't agree.
I can see your boys winning, and it's an odd one really, because I do think your boys win. It's in Seattle. You've got the stronger roster this season, and I think it's I think they've overestimated your game slightly, and I think there's a good chance it's going to come to Sunday Night Football, and it's essentially just a matter of the Packers wanting to win and Detroit just playing to spoil a party. I can't really see the Rams winning, if I'm being honest. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. But I do think there could have been other games. Even maybe put your game at the late game and let Packers and Lions playing that 9:30 kickoff.
Thing is, though, you put us at that late game. You beat the Lions. We're already out, and that game's a nothing game. For me, that game should be. Is it the Titans Jags? Is that right?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. The Saturday night game, yes. So, to be honest, I think our game should have been played at the same time. I think if they had both them games kick off at like 9:25 UK time, I think that'd have probably been the most logical sense. Can you imagine the drama on Red Zone while that's going off?
And neither of the players know what's going on.
Yeah, that'd have been much better for me. But yeah, like we say, that's obviously with the NFC side. What do you reckon to that? You got any opinions on Seattle? How confident are you?
I'm confident we're going to beat the Rams. I'm not as confident that we're going to make the playoffs. But part of me doesn't want to. I don't want to go to make the playoffs to be embarrassed. I think if Green Bay make the playoffs, the way that you've been playing late, your defense especially, you'll cause much more of an upset than we would, or you'd at least be more of a match for, I think it's going to be at the moment, the 49ers that you go up against, and I think you're going to be much more of a match for them than we are. We're
you say that. The classic bogey team for us at minute, aren't they? I've been since about 2010.
Yeah, the main thing for me is the kickoff time ruins it. If we win, Detroit don't have anything to play for except for to upset you guys, and I suppose it works with the pressure being off, but at the same time, you've got nothing to play for. The interest's gone. There's a chance that Green Bay go and beat Detroit, and that's it. It's game over, isn't it? Just like that.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
I agree with what you say on the fact that they should have been played at the same time. Also in the NFC, a team that has made it into the playoffs. We're going to go over to him now. Kemp, you've been surprised by the Giants making the playoffs. But a lot of that was kind of heaped on expectation after the draft took place last year. The excitement that was surrounding the Giants camp at that point. Is there a particular player that you think's been a standout from that draft class that the Giants took that you think has really, really helped New York get to where they are at the moment?
Yeah, I think Kayvon Thibodeau has definitely been the difference maker for us in that respect. First round of the draft, pick number 5, and he seems like he's been worth every single penny or every single sort of stock we've invested in him. He's been absolutely brilliant. Every time I've seen him play, he really puts that pressure on the offensive line, and that's something we've definitely been missing. Quarterbacks have been way too comfortable playing against New York Giants defense and defensive line. So Kayvon Thibodeau, it's the obvious answer, it's the easy answer, but it's the unanimous answer, I think, from a lot of Giants fans. With honourable mentions to Neil as well, the second round, or also the first round pick later in the first round. But yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau takes it for me, and fingers crossed he can live up to his potential and hopefully become the second coming of number 56. So a lot of pressure, a lot of expectation, but a really, really good player in the making. So hopefully he can stay injury free and keep his head down and become a legend of Giants football.
And at the moment, you are in the playoffs. I mean, me and Skin spoke last week about how we potentially have preferred our sides not to have made it just for the higher draft pick. You don't have to worry about that because you're already in there. But how far do you realistically think this Giants team can go now that you're in the playoffs?
Do you know what? I think it's the most cliche thing ever. And sometimes when Dawson says it, I do cringe. But man, any given Sunday, we've proven that earlier in the season we beat Green Bay, we beat Baltimore. We were both underdogs in both of those games, and we pulled it out.
Talk about it.
The big occasion. On the big occasion, we pulled something out of our arses. So, yeah, fingers crossed. We look like we've got a fairly fit roster. I am a bit concerned about the options at wide receiver or lack thereof. But if playoff DJ is anything like playoff Eli, and we've got an exciting playoffs to come. So I'm confident. I think we'll win the wild card game, but then I think sort of from there we may struggle a little bit when we come towards the business end. But hopefully a playoff win will do me. I'll be a very happy bunny with a playoff win. And then anything else from that's just a bonus. Okay,
and Sam, I'm going to ask you the same question in just a moment, but Kemp, I'm going to ask it you first. We are in a unique position in the NFC at the moment. Despite how the Eagles started the season, there is still the number 1 seed in the NFC up for grabs. The Eagles, the Niners, the Vikings, and the Cowboys could all walk away with that number 1 seed. So my question is there a team out of those that you'd have a preference to think? I know you said any given Sunday, but is there a team there that you think of as like, they're the ones that we've got the best chance of beating?
So it's the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Niners, and who?
The Vikings.
I'd say the Vikings.
It's an easy question for me to answer. Just beat them.
I'd say the Vikings, yeah, because I think everybody or most people expected them to sort of run through Green Bay. I know Green Bay have been in a really good vein of form, and that obviously helps. But in the last few weeks, the Vikings, haven't really looked the same. And the Eagles so far this season have had our number. The Cowboys have seemingly had our number a lot of the time, and the 49ers look like a really dangerous outfit. So, the Minnesota Vikings for me would be the ideal preference in that situation.
Yeah, and Sam, I'm guessing you just echo that for Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, we've just absolutely tanned their arses, haven't we? So they would be naturally the team out of the others that I'd rather face. The Niners are definitely the team I'd least like to face, just because of our history. We never seem to do well against them. The Eagles, I think the Eagles are difficult to say really, because obviously they've had Hurts away for a good couple of weeks now. I know we mentioned this to Mudge a couple of days ago, and he says he don't care. So, as soon as Hurts is back, no one's beating him. But I think, for a quarterback to have that kind of time off, just to get straight back into a rhythm, especially in the playoffs, it's a difficult thing to do. And let's not beat about bush. They've still got a stacked roster despite Hurts, and they haven't been winning games. They've lost. Is it last three now? Last against. Sorry, last two. Lost against the Saints. Lost against the Cowboys. So, I mean, they beat the Bears 25-20, so it weren't even convincing against the Bears. So, and like I say, they've still got a full stack defense there, and their offensive lines, not changed. They've got a great receiver core, and they're still struggling in the last three games, really. So, I don't think Jalen Hurts is the answer, be all and end all to all their answers, and I do think that they might be in for a bit of a rude awakening come playoffs. Even if Hurts is back, I think they still might struggle to get into the swing of things.
Okay, and Skin, I'm going to ask you now as like an outsider looking in from the AFC. San Francisco, they've had a lot of quarterback issues this year. Trey Lance went down injured. Jimmy Garoppolo went down injured. Now they've got Brock Purdy. He's been performing quite well, to a lot of people's surprise. If this is the situation, he continues performing like this throughout the off-season, the postseason, should I say, sorry. Would you say for next season, should Trey Lance be healthy, where do the 49ers go? Do they go Purdy? Do they go Lance? What's your thoughts?
It's a really good question. And on the flip side of that, it's also a really hard question to answer. Trey Lance, we know the haul they gave away to trade up to be able to pick Trey Lance out of North Dakota or out of college, and he was the future. He was going to sit behind a relatively steady hand at quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo, and it hasn't quite paid off yet. He's suffered injuries. He's been inconsistent when he has played, and then suffered the horrific injury earlier this season when it looked like they were giving him the keys to the team, and that was it. It was his moving forward. Garoppolo came back in, looked like he was doing quite well. San Francisco were playing quite well, and then he got injured as well. So in came Mr. Irrelevant in Brock Purdy, and he's been absolutely fantastic. Sam has said before about San Fran not needing necessarily an elite quarterback, just a great game manager and someone that can run that scheme. And he's certainly been that, as well as, to give him credit, not to give the scheme itself full credit. He himself has performed to a high level as well. So, yeah, it's a really, really good question, because one, it comes down to how Trey Lance recovers from the gruesome injury that he suffered. That will have an impact. But could it be a similar situation to what New England found themselves in a few years ago, when they had Tom Brady, when they had Jimmy Garoppolo, when there was that backroom sort of tension between who they wanted moving forward, and ultimately they used the potential that Jimmy Garoppolo had to trade away to San Francisco and get a good sort of draft pick collection to build their squad moving forward. So ultimately, if you're going to make me pick, I'd say they go with Trey Lance, because they kind of have to, in a sense, because of what they gave up for him to get him. And they use the tape that they've got on Brock Purdy in the NFL against professional teams, against professional defenses, and use that to build a haul of picks to continue building for their future. So I think that will be the route that they go down.
Okay, let's move on then to the locks of the week. The first time they are going to be included on the database, the table that you've made as well. I'm really underselling that. Go on.
No, mate, you go on. I'm just nervous about who's getting the first pick.
Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. It's not you. Right,
Oh,
so
brilliant.
after the wheel was spun, I've done different ones for the football as I have for the NFL, which means the first pick this time goes to Sam.
Hey, first
Oh,
time.
you
Fucking hell.
motherfucker.
Get in. Right. Let's fucking
You
have
dare.
it.
You dare.
I am going the 49ers at home
Oh, they're
against
my
the
backup.
Cardinals.
They're my backup.
You fucking.
Yeah.
Were they your
got him.
first pick?
They were my number one overall
Yes.
pick.
Buzzing. 12-4 Niners against the Cards at home. Who score a goal. Well, mirror image of their record, 4-12. Cards are shit this year, let's be fair. Niners are brilliant. Purdy's lighting it up. Niners still got the number one seed to play for. Cards have got absolutely nothing to play for. So, yeah, I'd be amazed at any other result. Well, I'll be amazed at any other result than the Niners. But then again, I thought that last weekend when I picked City at home against Everton. So, you know what my locks have been like. So, yeah, Niners at home against the Cards. That's my lock.
Okay.
Please come to me, Aggie. Please come to me.
It is me next.
Aggie.
It is me next.
It's you.
It is me.
Go on, Aggie. Go
I've
on,
been
take
last
another one.
every single time. My backup was the Niners to beat the Cards, which means thankfully I can go for my first choice, which is the Chiefs to beat the Raiders.
Yes, I'm still in.
God.
I'm still in.
I'm
Please
still
come
in.
to me
I'm still in.
next.
Come to me next, please.
I think.
Go on, Aggie. Break it down.
I think the Chiefs just need to win, and they've got the number one seed to the AFC, and they're just so bloody good at the moment. The Chiefs look like the side to me that's going to make it to the Super Bowl from the AFC. The only side that I think could stop them is the Bengals. But I think with the way the Raiders have been playing as well, they've been so disappointing. They've changed their quarterback, and I think the Chiefs' defense is just going to be too good up against the Raiders. So I'm going with the Chiefs to beat the Raiders as my lock. Up next, the pick goes to
Come on.
Kemp.
Yes! To be fair, I've built all this up. I actually don't know if this is going to be yours as well, Dawson. But I have gone for the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yes, it's not mine.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, at the Denver Broncos. The Broncos have been wildly inconsistent, to say the least, this season, and the Chargers have looked fairly steady. I think the Chargers are going to comfortably going to take this one. So the Chargers are my lock of the week. My third choice lock of the week, but my second choice, I bottled it a little bit. So,
Ooh, okay.
Skin, can I have a guess at yours?
Based on the fact that you're wanting to ask me and the tone of your voice, I think you've got it, but go on.
So I think you have gone for the Vikings to beat the Bears.
I have not gone for the Vikings to beat the Bears.
Okay,
I have gone for the, as you always coin it, your boys, the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, is it?
The Detroit Lions as my lock, as the result of the weekend that I am most confident in.
God.
And the reason for that being
I'm
is
moist.
Jared Goff has been lights out. In the last 8 weeks, he has thrown 15 touchdown passes with 0 interceptions. However, he is a different player in the dome as he is away from home.
It's true.
And this weekend, he is going to have to go to the frozen tundra, to the light, to the lively, to the electric Lambeau Field. And he has got to try and beat Aaron Rodgers and that informed defense to secure the Lions a place in the playoffs. And I am telling you now, I told you Argentina would win 4-2 on penalties in the final. I told you that Michael Smith would win the Darts World Championship. And right now, in this moment, on this episode, I am telling you that the Green Bay Packers will beat the Detroit Lions and head into next week's wildcard weekend as one of, if not the hottest team in the National Football League.
I tell you what, that's some fucking selling it right there. Let's
get fucking hyped, baby. Aaron Rodgers has had a fresh fucking fade.
He's
fucking back. Let's go.
He looks well, doesn't he?
You can't have a wild card weekend or you can't have a playoffs without Aaron Rodgers in it. Let's have it.
Well, we're going to find out. Skin, we'll stick with you then for the lock of the week scorer.
I did have a couple of backups just in case, but I'm going to stick with the game that I've picked for my lock, and I'm having Aaron Jones to score a touchdown against the Lions. I mentioned early in the week in our review show that Aaron Jones rushing over 100 yards is pivotal to Green Bay's success. Detroit Lions are not very good against the run, and I think he will have a field day, and I think he will score at least a touchdown. So Aaron Jones to score this weekend.
Okay, Kemp.
Yes, my darling. I am going to go for the king, Derrick Henry. I've backed him to get a touchdown for this week. I think that's the most nailed on prediction I'm going to make, which means it's definitely not going to come in. So yeah, I'm going to pick Dawson's usual man, and I'm going to say the King.
I won't back him against the Jags, mate. So come on.
Well, there you go.
It's me next. I've got 2 written down, but thankfully I can go for my first choice, and I can stick with a theme that I've been going for since we started doing these locks. And I'm going for a running back that is going against the Green Bay Packers. I'm going for DeAndre Swift to get
Swift.
touchdown.
I thought he was going to go Jamal then.
I considered Williams, but I'm going for DeAndre Swift. I'm confident. He's got the number 1 spot back in Detroit. Yeah, he's got the number 1 spot back as running back for Detroit. Last week, he got one from about 23 yards out. The fact that Green Bay are poor against the run, don't get me wrong, they have been playing much better, but I think Detroit, with the way they're going to be playing, with so much at stake for both sides, DeAndre Swift's going to be the one that gets a touchdown for the Lions. I know you're thinking Jamal Williams, every chance that he can, but I'm standing by DeAndre Swift to be the one that gets it. Sam, to you.
Yeah, well, as you all know, I always prepare a scorer and a backup just in case. And I'm that confident. I reckon both of my scorer and backup will score this weekend.
Give us your backup first, just for the
backup
record.
First is the reason why I audible gasped is Jamal Williams. For everything Adam said about the Packers not being great against the run, but he's got 15 touchdowns in 16 games. You know, he is their goal to go running back. He's the man, and I can't see him not scoring, to be honest. So he's my backup, and I do think he will score, and obviously ex-player as well. So plenty of reason to give his all against us, despite leaving on good terms. But no, my outright scorer this week will be CMC, Christian McCaffrey, to score against the Cards. Obviously, I do tend to have a bit of a theme where I pick my lock with the scorer with my lock, and that's what I'm going to do this week. So McCaffrey to score against the Cards. He's already got 12 touchdowns this year, and I think he'll increase it against the Cards.
Yeah,
fair enough.
We'll stay with you then, Sam. You kick us off with the wild card.
Right. So wild card, I was going to pick the Giants to beat the Eagles. However, the Giants have just got nothing to play for. They've got all to play for. I don't see how Dayball is getting him up for this game and not tempted to rest starters, whether it be just to play a half of football. You know, I can't see how they're going to get, especially when Eagles are still playing for a number 1 seed. So I've kind of pivoted from that game, and I am going to go with the Lions to beat the Packers as my wild card.
Wow.
So
is that just purely because you're thinking if I jinx it?
There is that. Yes. No, that's definitely some part of my thinking. However, Lions have lost once in the last 5. They've already beat Green Bay once this year. You're absolutely right in what you say in Goff, outdoor compared to indoor, different quarterback. But however, in his last games, as you say, it is 15 touchdowns to no interceptions, a passer rating of 108, which is fucking unreal.
Yeah.
So, that's going to be my wild card this weekend, the Lions to beat the Packers. Obviously, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I get a big fat cross next to my name right there. But
for the purpose of the spreadsheet, you'll take the risk.
Yes, absolutely.
Fair enough.
Okay. I've gone for a similar sort of theme in that I'm hoping I jinx it. I've gone with the Broncos to beat the Chargers. Naturally, I want the Broncos to keep losing so that we can get a higher draft pick from them. So naturally, they're going to go ahead and win. But I also think up against the Chargers that are in a similar sort of position like you just said with the Giants. There's absolutely nothing to play for. For Denver, it's all about preparing themselves now for next season and getting a bit more confidence within Russell Wilson and the receivers that they've got. I think that Broncos are likely to cause an upset in that game.
Can I just very quickly point out that I had the Broncos as my backup, and I've just got the betting odds up just to confirm my picks, and Broncos are now listed as favourites, which I would assume is down to the fact that Chargers will be resting players because they haven't got anything to play for. So, lads, are we making him pick again because Broncos are favourites?
Well, yeah, of course we are. That's not a wild card being
Does that mean
favourite.
I get to pick my lock again?
Good shout, to be fair.
There's 3 of us, so we can vote on it. But I would say do your fucking research. But
I did my research, and some of that was on the odds.
I had absolutely no expectation that the Broncos would be the favourites.
If I'm being honest, I'm inclined to say no to Kemp, and yes, and Ag's got to.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that seems about as fair as usual. Right, I'm going to go with...
It's in your fucking favour, you prick.
No, it isn't. I've got to
You
change.
can change, I can't.
I don't want to change. I was happy with the Broncos.
All right,
You
well,
can't,
it's null
mate.
and void.
Broncos
They
are
can't.
favourite
We're not letting you
then.
because
All
they're
right,
the
well, it's
fucking
null and void.
favourites.
No, it's fine. It's null and void. You don't get one.
Fine, I'm changing. Right, I'm going to go with...
I wish
like
if
that.
he picks mine now, I'll be fuming because it was me that mentioned it.
Oh, that'd be funny.
I'm
I
gonna
should have
go-
said mine, and I said, "Oh, just so you know, you can't have them."
I'm going to go Bears to beat Vikings.
Oh,
I've not took any
talk
of
us
that.
through it.
I think it could work for the Bears. Again, it's just about Justin Fields, isn't it? Just carrying that offense. He's going to get more confidence in him for next season. They're going to need to do quite a bit in the draft to just give him a bit more support from wide receiver perspectives. And like Sam keeps telling me every single week when I seem to go for the Vikings, they're the biggest frauds that are in the playoffs at the moment. So let's just... So I think the Bears are going to cause an upset against the Vikings. That was a backup that I'd looked at anyway, so I'm going to go with that one. And please, for the love of God, do not tell me that they are the favourites.
No, they won't be.
I didn't think they would be.
No,
No.
you are all good, mate,
I'm
and you are safe
Good.
on that one.
Kemp, over to you then.
What do you
I'm
mean,
gonna
Ken?
go with-
Whoa! I didn't go first.
No, you went last.
You went last.
And then you went first for the scorer.
You went last and then first for scorer, and now you're going last
you
again.
Fucking I was
Mind
thinking
your
of football.
dear.
fucking neck.
He's got ego
Don't
there,
you
hasn't he?
don't you dare pick mine. now.
I'm going for the
Don't you dare.
Houston Texans. I think this
Fine.
is just a game that's just going to be a wild card in itself. Neither team have got anything to play for. The Colts looked terrible
Texans
against
are
the
playing for the
Giants
number one pick.
last week. Well, yeah, but they're playing to, I suppose, lose for the number one pick, are they? So it's, yeah, I think the Texans are going to win. I just think it's going to be a bit of a mad game, and it's just going to be a bit donkey, as I say, and anyone could win it. And the Texans are the outsiders. So Texans to win for me.
I think the only way the Texans can lose the number one pick is if they win and the Bears lose.
They're not going to throw the game, though, are they? So
No, I wouldn't have thought so. Skin, for you then?
I'm all good, mate. My number one choice is still there, so I'm happy with that. And I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers to win at New Orleans Saints. New Orleans have won the last three. They beat the Eagles last week, albeit against their backup quarterback. Carolina have won 3 of the last 5, and the 2 that they lost were close and within 1 score. Similar to sort of a lot of the week 18 games, really. There's quite a few that could go either way. Will there be players rested because they're not playing for anything and that kind of stuff? So it is a little bit tough. We're kind of at a similar point, aren't we? With the FA Cup, we're not quite sure what some of the teams, what starting lineups will be and things like that. So it can be quite hard to sort of know where to go. But I'll go with the Panthers. They were my first choice, as I say. So I'm confident with that.
Okay, Sam, is it worth me asking you from the locks that we've gone for what your odds are looking at the moment?
I ain't
backing
backed
it, is it?
I ain't backed it, mate. I ain't backed it.
Oh, you're not
Obviously,
backing it?
normally I'd do an eightfold, but I've thought on cup weekends I'm just not going to back it because we all point of a lock is to pick a strong favourite, and I think like for example me picking Spurs at home against Portsmouth, odds are going to be dog shit. So I just thought on FA Cup weekends I'm just not going to bother.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was just football related, but understandable. Okay,
you know what's going to happen, don't you? That it's the one week that it'll come.
It's all going to come in.
They'll all come in. Right, that is all we've got time for this week then. So, Skin, over to you for your question of the episode.
The question of the episode is more of a statement of the episode. This is something that I've not revealed to you previously, lads, so this is for you to find out as is. But much like the man on the mic to start the episode, I am retiring the question of the episode to close the episode. It is getting more and more outrageous. I am struggling to find a question each episode, and I'm going to find more and more outrageous things. So I am going to retire it
and you're
before.
Going to get cancelled.
So I am retiring it before it becomes a parody of itself, much like our man at the mic segment at the start. So, lads, it has been an absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed it. I've much enjoyed putting Adam in very uncomfortable positions. But I think now,
within a week,
as we are,
we've had the birth of the listener lock-in. So
that's it. That's our focus.
So I think on that information you've just given us, it's only fitting that I am going to end that with a question to you. And
Oh!
I think you owe us an answer. Right.
Go for it, mate.
Like it.
I'm now racking my brains thinking of something outrageous.
You know me, mate. I'll answer it, which is kind of the issue because I listened back to our review show, and me answering a question that wasn't aimed at me in the most outrageous way, and I was like, I'm fucking clutching at straws here. So that was kind of the first domino that led to the end domino being, I'm going to retire it before it just becomes doing it for the point of doing it.
Right. Okay. So the question of the episode for the last ever time to Mr. Skin is a would you rather?
Like it.
Would you rather have a taste of Adam's helmet for 10 seconds, or would you rather have a deep sniff into his anal cavity?
Sorry, the silence isn't great for audio content, is it? But I want to make sure that I give the right answer. And the answer is as follows. I will take a deep sniff of his anal cavity while stroking his helmet before I proceed to sniff the helmet, stick it deep in my throat, take his load. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Why is it somehow still always about me?